G'day guys, Matty Sims here, and welcome to the very first episode of Wrestling with Sims. Just a backstory behind why we are starting this new series on the channel. If you are new to the channel, you will see I'm predominantly a gaming channel and have only uploaded Football Manager 2019 related videos. I started off my channel as a gaming channel, but always had the intentions of turning it into more than just one specific game. And with Football Manager 2019 kind of coming to an end now, and also I've had a lot of trouble with my recording device that I purchased and recording videos, so it kind of put me out of the mood of making videos and making Football Manager related videos. So I've decided to, start another passion of mine, which is professional wrestling. It won't just be, WWE. If you guys want to see and hear my thoughts on other, professional wrestling, New Japan, the start of AEW as well, and also local wrestling in Australia. I do attend every now and then PCW shows. So if you'd like to hear more, what's going on within the business, let me know. This will be a review of Monday Night Raw, though, as well as some news that is surrounding the show and surrounding wrestling as well. Hopefully won't make it too long. The commentary style like this, I was actually inspired by good mic work commentaries. If you want to check him out, I will leave a link to his channel in the description below, because I've really been inspired by him. He's a great influence to me on YouTube. So yeah, anyway, we'll kick things off with the big news coming out of the show, and that was Bayley turning heel on Becky Lynch and re-teaming up with Sasha Banks. So I wonder how it's going to work with Banks being on Raw and Bayley being the SmackDown Women's Champion. There is the wild card rule. So we'll see what happens with that in the coming weeks, but it's going to be intriguing to find out what happens. We will get into more detail of that when we come to it in the main event segment here. But I thought we'll just start off with that, because that's a big news story, and that's what a lot of people want to hear my thoughts on it. And they're just my initial thoughts. It's going to be intriguing to see what happens, but we'll get into more detail of what transpired. But we'll start off with the first... with what kicked off the show. Sorry, it was 4 hours ago when I watched this. Raw is 3 hours, which is a long time, but we'll get into that. It's a debate to have another day. It was the contract signing between Braun Strowman and Seth Rollins, and it was a decent promo. Just reading my notes here. It was the typical talk they have. I'm going to beat you. I'm better than you. Blah blah blah. Until the OC came out, AJ Styles was unhappy that he's been pushed back. He's the United States champion. He should be front and center. He should be the first in line for that Universal title opportunity. Instead, it has gone to Braun Strowman last week on Raw. Strowman and Rollins got a bit of an upset win over the OC, winning the tag team titles, which plays nicely into the next segment that happened with the OC taking on Strowman and Rollins, not in a non-title match, but Rollins does pick up the win in a pretty solid tag team match. When you're doing 3 hours of a product, 5 hours including SmackDown, and then they're going to add NXT 2 hours live as well, you're going to have the same match over and over again. And it happened a lot this show. All the tag matches were pretty much the same, excluding the Viking Raiders squash match. It's one team building momentum and the other, just put it on the back burner a bit. And that's what happened here. So Rollins picking up the win, and then Ziggler and Rude came down and helped beat down Strowman and Rollins, and that ended the segment there. All five guys, the OC, Ziggler and Rude, looking strong. Ziggler and Rude, of course, have that match with Rollins and Strowman in a couple weeks at Clash of Champions. So they've been, again, they're the number one contenders. Last week they got... They won the tag team tournament that was there to become number one contenders. And again, they're sort of been put behind the shadows of the OC, helping attack them, which, again, gives them good heat. And Robert Roode, as we know, is a great worker, great on the mic, deserves much better. So does Ziggler, but I think Roode, ever since coming up, to the main roster from NXT, hasn't been given this. What's the word I'm looking for here? Hasn't been given that level of class that he deserves. Almost, he should be up in that Universal title picture, and hopefully, there was a bit of rumor going around that maybe this is the beginning of a new era for Robert Roode. He will be pushed a bit more. Even that United States title picture, Intercontinental title picture, that's where he should be. And, occasionally as a top heel challenging for the Universal title or WWE Championship. Next, we had Cedric Alexander. So after the beatdown, we cut to commercial, and Cedric Alexander is cutting a promo backstage. And wasn't really explained throughout the show, but the OC decided to attack Cedric, which of course is playing into the night that he's going to be injured for his King of the Ring match against Baron Corbin, which kind of gives him the excuse, if he were to lose that match, that he was injured. So he gets attacked. They throw him into a stage crate, I think it is. I'm not sure what they're called. A stage case, and he injures his arm in that beatdown, and the OC walk off. Strange that they attacked him. No real reason behind it. We weren't given a reason. I'm guessing it would build up to a match further down the line. But yeah, again, just strange that they would attack him specifically with no explanation. Next, we had Roode and Ziggler in the ring waiting for Ryder and Hawkins. Again, an okay tag match. Again, it was just to build up the team that needs to be built up, and that's Roode and Ziggler. They haven't been given a name yet. I doubt they'll last after Clash of Champions, unless they were to win the tag titles. But decent. It's there to build them up. I was surprised it wasn't more of a squash match, but Ryder and Hawkins won the titles at WrestleMania, so they kind of need to still look competitive enough to where in the future, if they were to get another shot, it would look realistic at least. The match ends there, and we have Lacey Evans backstage head into the ring, and then we come back from commercial break, and Lacey Evans is making her entrance, and a pretty funny moment. It looked like it was a bit of a botch. Natalia's music hits as Lacey Evans is making her entrance, and Lacey Evans sort of just stands there like in an annoyed, face, shocked face, and Natalya runs up behind her, then stops, and waits for her to turn around. I'm guessing Lacey Evans was meant to already be turned around, and Natalya would, hit her over. Nice hip and shoulder by Natalya. She should play AFLW. But yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, bit funny moment, and I mean the match was, meh. Lacey Evans wins with the women's right, which is just a punch to the face. A bit of a nothing match. Natalya coming back from losing at SummerSlam to Becky Lynch, and then getting beaten up by Sasha Banks. Coming back from that, still injured as well. They didn't really play much on the injured arm, which was a surprise. But Lacey Evans getting a win. Again, it's just sort of a nothing match that didn't have to happen, but also had to happen just to continue building up Lacey Evans. Maybe to challenge for Becky Lynch's belt further down the line, or whoever else is the champion at the time. What was next? So again, Becky Lynch then comes down to the ring and cuts a pretty good promo. This was a good promo between her and Sasha Banks, saying how she took her ball and ran home, which was true. The rumor was that she got really upset that they lost her and Bayley lost the women's tag titles at WrestleMania, and I mean, I can see her reasoning behind it, but you also got to be professional in these instances, and she took her ball, ran home, which is, what was said. I'm not saying she did that. I'm just saying that's what the rumor is. And yeah, Becky Lynch, tears her down a little bit, and then Sasha Banks comes out, and I think it was pretty even promo. They both got some good jabs at each other. I think Banks maybe slightly won. She's now got a title match at Clash of Champions, and again plays through the night. Plays throughout the night that Banks is ready. She's the top dog now. Becky Lynch, despite being champion and probably the face of the women's division, she's been held back a bit now, and at Clash of Champions, we'll see who the top dog of the women's division really is. And as I said, plays throughout the night. Later in the night as well, where is it? Sasha Banks was just walking. She gets interrupted by the reporter, and she just yells at the reporter. I don't know her name. Sorry. So Sasha Banks did challenge Becky Lynch to a match at Clash of Champions, and Becky, of course, accepted. Also, of course, Sasha Banks was challenged to fight then and there, but she said she doesn't do anything for free. So I remember Brock Lesnar a while back, Paul Heyman would say, he doesn't do anything for free. He's not fighting on Monday Night Raw. This is what Sasha Banks, this is what the boss needs. She needs to be almost larger than life. She needs to be better than everyone else. She doesn't do anything for free. She's the boss. This is her division, and she fights when she wants to fight. She also said something along the lines of the man will become the boss's bitch, which was pretty funny. And, it's a nice little jab at Becky Lynch. Rambled on a little bit there a little bit on that one for long. But next up, we had the King of the Ring quarterfinal match between Baron Corbin, and Cedric Alexander. Cedric did really well selling his arm injury in this. It was really good to see, because sometimes they'll just get injured, on the night, and then it won't matter. But Cedric's offense was really affected by that arm injury. You could see he couldn't get his momentum going. Baron Corbin was able to reverse a lot of his stuff pretty easily because of that. He's only able to use one arm for an Irish whip, or he's not been able to get the full leverage on top of him, and his aerial ability was affected by that. Cedric, a great high flyer. It was a solid match in my thoughts, and Corbin winning. It sets up the semi-finals next week. Corbin, very much hated by the fans. Some section of the fans hate him because they don't want him there at all and don't think he deserves it. I think he's just been a really good heel, and a lot of the hatred that he does get is pretty unfair, but I think he's been a really good heel, and if he wins, I don't personally want him to win King of the Ring. I think he will, though, because he's getting to the semi-finals, and they have him at a high regard in the WWE, and I think he will get to the final. Something interesting happens later on tonight, which we'll get into, but with Baron Corbin winning, Cedric Alexander now has the opportunity to take on AJ Styles for the United States Championship. He has that excuse: you injured me, you cost me the King of the Ring, and that's true. And AJ Styles, hopefully those two can put on a really good match. They're both pretty similar in their styles. Cedric's more of a bit of AJ Styles is a lot more, he's changed his style up from when he was younger, and Cedric reminds me a lot of that young AJ Styles, that high flying, and using that aerial ability to his advantage. Next up, we returned from the break with a recap on the Roman Reigns situation. It's been really intriguing seeing what, they've come up with, and a bit funny as well. A couple weeks ago on SmackDown, we had the Eric Rowan lookalike, but I'm more intrigued by the psychotic Daniel Bryan. What has pushed him to do this? He's calling everyone liars, this and that. I think it's clear that it's going to build up to a Daniel Bryan-Roman Reigns match, with Daniel Bryan admitting that he did this. But what has led Daniel Bryan to this? Just the psychotic nature of Daniel Bryan it's pretty exciting to see, and it's much different from, what we're used to with Daniel Bryan. So I'm pretty excited to see what happens. Hopefully, it can wrap up maybe tomorrow on SmackDown, or maybe even the week after. I don't think they'll fight at Clash of Champions. I think it'll be Rowan versus Reigns at Clash of Champions, with maybe, or even not even a match, just another promo, and that's when it's announced, Daniel Bryan, I did this for The Rock, or something like that. That ends there with Bayley cutting a all right promo saying, I talked to Sasha Banks about what she did, and that's personal, but she doesn't, for me, Bayley's promo, she doesn't sell anything. She just says the words, but she doesn't sell it to me that, this is what actually happened. Hopefully now, with what happened later in the show, that heel turn, she can really get her promo style, perfect and show the world what she can do. Because in NXT, she was cut some pretty good promos. She was really good. But again, the writing team on the main roster is different to that. And, with all the sponsorships and everything, that the corporate, nature of the actual WWE, sometimes I can't, say things that would help the promo, go a lot better. And just after that, we had a tweet from Stone Cold saying that he's going to be at Raw next week to moderate the contract signing between Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman to make sure nothing gets out of hand. So, as we know, Raw and SmackDown next week coming from Madison Square Garden. I was privileged to be there just on WrestleMania weekend this year for the Ring of Honor show and New Japan, I believe it was. So, yeah, it's a great venue. Raw and SmackDown heading back there, WWE heading back to pretty much their home, Madison Square Garden. So we'll see what transpires on that. I know Undertaker is listed for SmackDown. Maybe we could get a Fiend and Undertaker, appearance. Maybe no contact, but, both of them in the same ring together. That'd be pretty cool. What was next? We headed to another break, and we looked at the Viking Raiders. So they were coming out next for a squash match, as they do every week. And the two jobbers, I didn't get to see their names because I was a bit distracted, but pretty funny guys. Pretty good promo they cut. Getting some cheap heat, which was really good. You see these jobbers, they come out, they're standing there already. These two guys, they got an opportunity to speak, and I thought they took their moment pretty well. Just shitting on Baltimore, saying they're from Pittsburgh, all this stuff. It was funny, one of the guys actually looked like an Elvis impersonator or the Honky Tonk Man impersonator, so it was pretty funny seeing that. But yeah, Viking Raiders with a squash match win. The Viking Raiders are very impressive, but is the damage already done with all the name changes they've had? Coming up and being put in a promo with, in the tag team division and then getting taken out and restarted. I think they should change their name back to War Raiders, or hell, even let them have War Machine. But they're not going to let that, so we're stuck with Viking Raiders. So we'll see what happens with that. They deserve better. Maybe once the belts are off Rollins and Strowman, they don't have to be a heel team. So you could have them challenge, the OC or Robert Roode and Ziggler. They can be just tough guys. They don't have to be a heel team specifically or a babyface team. They can be sort of tweeners and challenge whoever. Maybe put them on SmackDown, challenging the New Day. That's a thing they could do. So we'll see what happens with that. I know the Revival and Randy Orton are currently challenging the New Day, but after that program ends, we'll see what happens with that. Next was the Sasha Banks promo where she just yells at the reporter, and then Samoa Joe versus Ricochet in the second quarterfinal King of the Ring match, and it was a pretty slow start to the match, but in a good way. Samoa Joe really stopping Ricochet from getting any space to use his speed and agility, targeting the legs, targeting the limbs, really slowing down Ricochet, which made for a pretty good match, I thought. Ricochet, he got back into it every time he was building. Samoa Joe, bang. No, you're stopping right there, son. What's the name of the move now? A Uranagi in the corner that Samoa Joe does, and then straight away hits him down to Uranagi, rolls out of the ring, back suplex into the barricade, which is a pretty cool spot. The match ended pretty weirdly, though, and strange. I thought it was pretty weird to see this happen because, in a tournament like this where there must be a winner, you'd think they'd just restart the match. But Samoa Joe and Ricochet at the top rope, they both the sleeper hold locked in by Samoa Joe on Ricochet on the top rope, which was pretty cool to see. Ricochet fading. They both fall back both arm on each other. They pin 1, 2, 3. Match ends as a draw. So the referee runs over, gets a headset on, which is rare to see as well. And he's talking to someone, probably Vince McMahon or whatever they're trying to say, and they say, and he just heads to the back. They end it as a draw, and they decide later in the night what's going to happen. Corey Graves leaves the desk and to go find out what happens. And then we have a backstage promo between Strowman and Rollins, and Strowman a little bit unhappy that Stone Cold is moderating the contract signing, as Rollins and Stone Cold have been having some pretty good words between each other. Stone Cold building up Seth Rollins quite a bit recently on TV and over Twitter. So Strowman, of course, unhappy that one of Rollins' boys is moderating this. Next up, so before we still don't know what's happening with the King of the Rings quarterfinal match between Joe and Ricochet, we go into a brand new Firefly Funhouse episode. And I'll tell you what, guys, if you're going to watch anything from this episode, it's a pretty good episode, but of course 3 hours is a long time to get through. Firefly Funhouse, I'd say the Cedric Alexander and Baron Corbin match, I thought that was a pretty solid match. And the Sasha Banks Bayley heel turn on Becky Lynch. But yeah, watch this Firefly Funhouse episode. He is an absolute genius, Bray Wyatt. Watanda, I don't know for what's his name? Watanda? Anyway, Bray Wyatt, we'll call him Bray Wyatt. We're not going by his real name. He's Bray Wyatt to us. And just what he can do in such a small space. It's, one picture can speak 1,000 words, and he is an absolute genius. He apologizes as, this, Bray Wyatt character, not as the Fiend, just as that normal Mr. Rogers type character. And he apologizes to Finn Balor for what the Fiend did. Because, as we know, Bray Wyatt and the Fiend, they're the same person, but that is his alter ego. And we find out more about that. Evil boss man, Vince McMahon, as it is, we know who it is, comes in and says, you can't challenge, which he never actually challenged Seth Rollins or Braun Strowman to a match for the title after Clash of Champions, but it was tweeted out, so they've actually come out and said, you know what, he's challenging them now, let's make it official. So he challenges them. This puppet, Vince McMahon puppet, says, you can't do that, they're my top stars sort of thing, and before he says you're fired, Bray Wyatt gets a bunch of money and says, but look what I'm making you, look what I am doing for your company. And he just feeds the money into the mouth of the puppet, which was quite hilarious, actually. And after that part, he just goes away and he explains what the Firefly Funhouse is and what the Fiend is. So if you've noticed, he has those hurt and heal on his hands, and he fights with what to do. So the Firefly Funhouse and the puppets, what did I write here? Helps him heal his pain that he has. So that's there to, make him understand that, yes, with all that's evil in the world, he is an evil person, but that can help him be normal for a moment, I'm assuming, or you know what I mean. And then the Fiend helps him inflict that pain. So all that pain that he is feeling, that the Firefly Funhouse is trying to heal and keep in, it just comes out whenever that Fiend arrives and attacks and hurts and inflicts that pain on others. Which again, good storytelling by Bray Wyatt. It's not the same Firefly Funhouse setup. They're probably just filming this one in the back. As we know, Bray Wyatt went off location with, was it the director of The Walking Dead? Or maybe the costumes that Bray Wyatt has were designed by someone within The Walking Dead. But yeah, so just another great Firefly Funhouse video vignette. And it's intriguing to see where they go from here now. Madison Square Garden, Bray Wyatt, Undertaker, Stone Cold's there as well. He's attacked legends. Will he attack some more legends? We'll see what happens next week with that. We then cut to Corey Graves at the back with the referee, and they make a decision on the double pin. Corbin comes and says, well, you know what? They've both lost. They both pinned each other. I should get a bye. Instead, which is pretty surprising, they make it a triple threat match next week between Ricochet, Samoa Joe, and Baron Corbin. And winner goes on to Clash of Champions in the final of the King of the Ring tournament. It's a bit of a surprising move, you know. It's meant to be a singles one-on-one tournament. And for them to do this, yeah, it's surprising. I'm intrigued by it. It's just to make it more interesting, you know. It's to try. You don't have to, because it's the King of the Ring. It's a prestigious tournament. But again, it's just there to make it a bit more intriguing. After that, we had Rey Mysterio backstage as well. Now, I thought he was wrestling on this show, but he doesn't wrestle. He just cuts a promo saying, he was going to retire, but his son, he knows he has to be there for his son Dominic. Funny story, actually. I saw Rey Mysterio and Dominic and their whole family outside the MetLife Stadium at WrestleMania, and no one noticed that it was them. I didn't want to. There was a lot of people. It was carnage because everyone was trying to find out how to get the train back, how to get an Uber back, how to get a lift back, how to get anything back. So, it was a bit carnage. No one noticed it was him, of course, because he wasn't wearing his mask. But yeah, funny story. Just saw Rey Mysterio and his son Dominic right next to me, standing there talking to a security guard, shoulder to shoulder with Dominic and Rey Mysterio. So at least I have that in my locker. I guess, I should have asked for a photo, at least of Dominic, and probably Ray. But, Rey Mysterio, no one noticed him. It was pretty funny. No one noticed him. And of course they wouldn't, he has a mask, but it's still pretty funny that no one did. Next up, we had a match between The Miz and Cesaro. And for me, again, a solid match, but Cesaro deserves so much more and so much better than what he's currently doing. He's probably, arguably, one of the best wrestlers in the company. Definitely top 5, maybe definitely top 10 wrestler. And he's probably he's arguably the strongest in the company as well. And this match was just to build up The Miz with his match with Shinsuke Nakamura and Sami Zayn for the Intercontinental Championship at Clash of Champions. But for me, Cesaro, he deserves to be in that title picture. He deserves to be the number 1 contender for these championships. And hopefully, after Clash of Champions, maybe we could get a Cesaro face turn, or even him just challenging for the championships. Because, maybe Sheamus is going to come back. They can redo the bar, but maybe that's, dead in the water now. And hopefully Cesaro can get himself a championship match in the future. But Miz wins with the skull-crushing finale. It's a pretty solid match, I thought. Cesaro really putting over the Miz here for good showing, and Cesaro looking really strong as well. But yeah, Miz just building up some momentum for his title match against Nakamura. And main event time, and I'll tell you what, looking at it, you should have saw this coming. Really should have saw this coming. But for so long, Bayley has been this baby face. They've never wanted to turn her heel. When she should have turned heel, 2 years ago, they didn't turn her heel. Instead, they just continued the tag team with Sasha Banks. So they come out, they do their match, it's looking pretty good. Gets interrupted by Sasha Banks, and then the match goes on a little bit longer, and then Sasha Banks comes down to the ring, takes out Becky Lynch, grabs a chair, hits her a few times. Bayley stops her from, the onslaught. And there's a moment there where you're thinking she's going to do it, isn't she? She's going to hit her with this chair, and bang, she just starts pounding into Becky Lynch. And a nice little moment. The crowd goes wild for it. This is what we've needed. Hopefully Bayley can really turn into the star that she should be. She should be, the female John Cena, as everyone said she was going to be. And that's not her fault. But I do also think, the actual performer has to take blame for some of the stuff, Her voice is just a bit too plain, sometimes. And, she's, as I said earlier, in the night, she's just doing this promo. And there's no conviction behind it. She doesn't believe what she's saying. So hopefully now, these two, as a heel tag team, maybe they'll go for the tag titles again, but we shall see. We don't know what's going to happen with that. Or maybe they can just both be champions on Raw and SmackDown, dominate both divisions, come together when they need to. Hell, maybe be both Raw and SmackDown Women's Champions and the Women's Tag Team Champions. Hold all the belts, be a massive duo, get a third member in maybe. sort of like a New Day situation where you can have Bailey or Sasha fight with that third person for the tag titles. But yeah, I'm excited by it. It was a good ending to a show that was an all right show, a bit slow in moments, but the King of the Ring matches were really good. The Firefly Funhouse, which I'm always ready for, I always wanted to watch, was really, really good. And that moment there was amazing. Good promo by Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks earlier in the night as well. And yeah, they're building up. It's pretty solid build up to Clash of Champions. Next week it looks like it's going to be a couple of really big shows, so I'm excited for that as well. But yeah, I'll give tonight's show, a B minus, C plus to a B minus. I think it's hard to do 3 hours of professional wrestling, a night, but I think that. Sorry, guys, 1 second. I'll just get up some wrestling news for us that we can talk about real quick. I think it is hard to do 3 hours a night, 3 hours a week, and then 2 hours SmackDown, and then, now going to be 2 hour NXT, and then a pay-per-view, 3-4 hours every now and then. So I think, AEW is going to have AEW is going to have this problem where it's going to be the same thing. The pay-per-views, I was watching All Out on the weekend, and for me, it was a good show. It wasn't an amazing show. NXT UK, for me, was amazing. That Walter and Tyler Bate match, unreal. And I don't watch NXT UK. I don't know all the UK guys. And I only watch NXT takeovers. That's it. But, so AEW, they're going to have this problem where if their storylines aren't amazing, it's just going to be good wrestling. And you can't always do good, amazing wrestling matches. You got to work with the TV audience. And that's what WWE do really well, where they have the moment, it all builds up to the end of the match. It's all slow, no big high spots. There's one high spot which goes to commercial. And then, so AEW are going to have to work around that. I think they can do it. And I'm excited for AEW. But I'm not going to go now like a lot of people are and saying it's already better than WWE. It's already better than NXT. AEW, we know these guys can wrestle. We know they can. That's not a surprise. And when you've got a bit of money in the back, backing you, of course the production's going to look good. I think a few things that happened on the weekend, one of those moments where Orange Cassidy, debuts in AEW, and Jim Ross says, "Who is he?" And no one explained who he is, because that's what Jim Ross was trying to get over, who this guy is. And, Jim Ross is new to AEW, so he's not meant to know who these guys are. He should have explained who he is, but the other guys who know Orange Cassidy should have explained who Orange Cassidy is, and they're gonna work around that. They will get through it. Just a couple of news stories here. Jon Moxley, formerly known as Dean Ambrose, formerly known as Jon Moxley as well, booked for another wrestling match in New Japan. Good on him. He's doing really well. For himself. He is the New Japan United States champion, I believe, as well. So it's good to see. We know how good Jon Moxley is. We know how good he is. Again, he's going to be in AEW, and he's also in New Japan. You can't. We've already seen it happen with Pac earlier in the year with All In. Double or Nothing? I'm sorry. With Double or Nothing, where he didn't want to wrestle because he didn't want to lose. So if he's fighting in other promotions and he's, top dog in that promotion, you can't go to another promotion and then lose. It just looks, weird, and it doesn't build up you or and it's what's going to happen if they don't lock these guys down permanently to AEW. Now, one-off matches here and there are good, especially at the beginning, but what WWE have right is that you wrestle for us, you wrestle for only us. And that's what AEW, I think, is going to have to do to if they really want to challenge. And they're they're going to just be an alternative viewing experience for wrestling fans, for people in general. But yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess. Not much news. Kylie Ray reportedly retiring from pro wrestling after AEW release. So already someone's been released, and she's retiring from AEW, from professional wrestling. Yeah. Other than that, not much news at the moment. And again, just Steve Austin's going to be out at Raw next week. I'm just looking at WrestlingInc.com. WWE trying to hire female referees. Now, they did have that one, what's her name? She was at AEW on the weekend. Who was it? Jessica Carr? Jessica Carr is signed to WWE. Because Aubrey Edwards, wasn't she in WWE as well in NXT for a bit? So yeah, good on them. AEW paving the way, I guess, hiring female referees, and WWE, again, they should follow suit. They should have more, evenness, more. It just should be a normal thing. It shouldn't be a surprise. Like if same with anything. If you're good enough, you should get it. And if you're a good enough wrestler, you should be wrestling. If you're good enough referee, female, male, whatever, you should be able to do it. And yeah, anyway, guys, I think we've gone for 30 plus minutes now. I think we'll end it there. I'll try not to make these reviews too long. That is a 3-hour show though, so I know what I need to work on. We'll try and skim through a lot of the nothing stuff and just focus on the important stuff. Next week's going to be a big show. So we'll see what happens. We're not going to do SmackDown reviews yet. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see SmackDown reviews. I'll give you a review of SmackDown live as well. Maybe even just do one big review of Raw and SmackDown with some wrestling news in between. If you want to see some wrestling news episodes, let me know in the comments below. If you want to see AEW videos, let me know. If you want to see WWE 2K19 on the Xbox, let me know as well. Have pre-ordered WWE 2K20 SmackDown Special Edition, 20th Anniversary Special Edition. So let me know if you want to see an unboxing of that, because you get quite a lot of nifty things in that, including a signed card by Eva, Rey Mysterio, Kurt Angle, or Edge. So it's going to be a surprise who we get. Hoping for Edge. Wouldn't mind Kurt Angle or Rey Mysterio though, but Edge, hopefully we can get Edge. That'd be really good. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening to my Raw review. If you did enjoy it, drop a like on the video. Comment if you want to see some more stuff. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And if you want to continue watching, speak to you guys soon. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the wrestling week.